Alright guys, how's it going? Welcome back. Well, today we've got a bit of a sad one because we're saying goodbye to 8 well-known cars that are about to vanish from UK showrooms. Some of these cars are well loved and have been around for decades. Others never really got the love they deserved. So in today's video, we're going to go through each one. We're going to talk about why they're going, what made them great, and whether they'll be remembered fondly or not. Let's get started. First up on the list then is the Lexus LS. Now this is a real shame because they've been on this planet for as long as I have, and they're genuinely brilliant cars. I've had loads of them over the years and I love them. They're powerful, smooth, silent, and crucially, quite reliable. Just to give you a bit of background, the Lexus LS, now LS by the way stands for luxury sedan, it was launched in 1989, and it was built with one mission, and one mission only, to beat the Mercedes S-Class. Toyota sunk billions into the original LS 400 project. Everything from the alloy V8 to the electric steering column was engineered to ridiculous levels of precision. And that attention to detail quickly gave Lexus a great name. So much so, people were talking about the LS in the same breath as the S-Class, the 7 Series, the A8. It was that good. My favourite era has got to be the LS 430. I just thought they'd really nailed it. The styling was reminiscent of the old W140 S-Class, and it just worked. It was big and brutalist, and I love them. Fast forward to the modern day, and the latest version's called the LS 500H, so that uses a 3.5 litre petrol V6 hybrid. I feel like for the last few years they've kind of lost their way. The styling wasn't quite there. They were never as stately as the previous models. And they cost over £100,000, which is just too much really. So you're at a point where they still cost as much as the Mercedes S-Class, but they just don't look as impressive. So naturally people just went out and bought the Mercedes instead. I couldn't believe this next figure. It's quite a sad stat actually, but guess how many of them Lexus sold last year in the UK? So in 2024, Lexus sold, you ready for this? 3 LSs. 3. In fact, since 2020, so over the last 5 years, only 39 LSs have been registered in the UK. 39 over 5 years. There's just no business there anymore, is there? It's kind of no surprise though really, because people just don't buy big saloons anymore. The latest craze is SUVs, so naturally people are buying RXs and NXs instead. Just to prove my point, have a look on the Lexus website. The only saloon car that they sell right now is the ES. That's it, just one car. And the ES basically is a rebadged Camry. So it's a bit of a sad state of affairs for Lexus, isn't it? Although having said that, if you're after a new LS, now's the time to go and get one. I bet they're heavily discounted. So after 35 years, it's sadly curtains for the LS. Right, on to the next one. We're staying in Japan for this one, it's the Mazda II. This one's both surprising and unsurprising at the same time. Now the Mazda II has been around since 2003, and it was always a popular little car. I've bought and sold loads of these through the garage, and I always thought they were quite underrated. I think they're reliable, light, nippy, and fun to drive. So much so, it actually won the World Car of the Year award in 2008. I say it's surprising and unsurprising. I mean, it's surprising because they're really good cars for all the reasons I've rattled off. And in the first quarter of 2024, they sold over 7,000 of them. So people were buying them, obviously. But the reason I said it's unsurprising is that they never really gave us a new model. They ran that model for years. It was a bit weird, really. I say it never changed. It did have facelifts. In fact, it had more facelifts than Katie Price. But they never gave us a brand new model. I might be getting my facts slightly wrong now, but I saw one the other day and it was like a 19 reg, and it looked the same as an 04. I just couldn't get my head around it. In a market full of modern-looking Teslas and BYDs, the Mazda II just looked like a dinosaur. You might be shouting at the screen now at this point saying, Matt, you can still go into the Mazda showroom and buy a brand new Mazda II. And yes, you're right, but it isn't. It's just a rebadged Toyota Yaris hybrid. They're exactly the same drivetrain, same platform, just a different badge. And that means the fun, nippy, petrol-only Mazda II has now gone. And it's a bit of a shame. What they should have done instead was given us a new model. Now you'd think there'd be a marketplace for this, wouldn't you? With all the little super minis being axed, you know, the likes of the Fiesta, you'd think there'd be a place for a cool little super mini, wouldn't you, like the Mazda II? Obviously not. I guess from a business point of view it does make sense. With the new Euro 7 rules coming out, it's probably cheaper and easier just to license Toyota's technology under their badge rather than develop their own. I just think it's a real shame because the Mazda II was one of the last honest, affordable little city cars you could buy. And if you've got one in a high spec, you should probably keep hold of it. Although don't forget to Schultz the underside of it because they do rust terribly. On to the next one then. We're staying with Mazda for this next one. It's the MX30. Now I know what you're thinking. Matt, what's an MX30? Let me explain. It was an unusual little electric crossover SUV thing with a terrible range and suicide doors. So I'm not too bothered they're axing this. The MX30 launched in 2020 and it was Mazda's first electric car. And in fairness, it had some cool ideas. It had suicide rear doors, a floating console, a weird cork trim. It was quite quirky, in a good way, I suppose. But here's the issue, it was outdated by the time it was launched. It only had a 35.5 kilowatt-hour battery with a range of 124 miles, which in the real world is probably a range of 101 miles, which is a bit poor. Yes, it might have had cool rear doors reminiscent of an RX-8, but that was about it. It was expensive and it didn't charge particularly fast. Now, that might have been fine in 2012, but in 2020, people just wanted better. To try and improve things, a few years later, Mazda launched the MX30 REV, which had a tiny range extender. Now, that model will continue, but the fully electric MX30 is heading to the chopping block. And to be honest with you, who cares? This is one of the few cars on the list whose demise doesn't really upset me. Right, we're heading over to Germany for the next one, but before we do, I just need to say a big thank you to today's video sponsor, Surfshark. Now, if you haven't heard of Surfshark, Surfshark are a VPN service provider. Now, I spend an awful lot of time online. Whether it's bidding for cars or doing research for videos or online banking, I just seem to be online all the time. And Surfshark have been helping to keep me safe online for years. Surfshark keeps your data safe and it lets you change your virtual location, which is great if you want to access stuff that's region locked. Take, for example, you want to watch your favourite TV show that's only available in the US. You can use Surfshark to change your location so that it thinks you're in the US, and then all of a sudden you can watch your favourite show. And it'll even help you dodge all that creepy price tracking stuff when you're shopping for flights or insurance. I've used Surfshark for years now and it's always been spot on. If you'd like to try Surfshark for yourself, then you can get yourself an extra 4 months totally free if you use my promo code HighPeakAutos. All you need to do is visit surfshark.com/HighPeakAutos and you get the extra 4 months totally free. It's really easy to set up, you can use it on an unlimited number of devices, and it helps support the channel. So thanks Surfshark for sponsoring today's video. Right, on to the next one then. Now, like I said, we're heading to Germany for this. Sadly, it's the Porsche 718 Boxster and the 718 Cayman. This one's quite sad actually. It genuinely hurts. I've always been a big fan of the Boxster since it came out in 1996. I've had several Boxsters over the years and every single generation has been great, but particularly the 718. Now, I had one of these last year and I loved it. When the 718 arrived on the scene in 2016, it was quite controversial. And that's because for the first time it featured a 4-cylinder turbocharged petrol engine rather than a 6. And you know what Porsche Anoraks are like, everything upsets them. But the 718 was genuinely a good car. In a car as small and light as the Boxster, you don't need more than that 2-litre turbocharged petrol engine. It produced something like 300 horsepower, it still sounded good, and it was good on fuel. To appease those upset Anoraks, Porsche brought out the GTS and the GT4, which used a flat 6. But in my opinion, it was a bit unnecessary. It was a bit overkill. In the real world, on real roads, in real conditions, there was nothing wrong with the Boxster or the Boxster S. The reason it's been axed, weirdly, is because of Brussels. It's just boring EU regulation. Porsche have decided it just wouldn't be worth the cost to re-engineer the whole platform, so they've pulled the plug on it instead. But don't panic, a new 718's coming, that'll be all electric. Way. Going forward then, if you want a real petrol Porsche, you're going to have to buy used. Anyway, on to the next one then. The next one is a Nissan GTR. Right then, let's talk about the GTR. This is a car that genuinely changed the game when it was launched back in 2007. Make no mistake, the R35 blew everybody away when it was launched, but that was 20 years ago. They just haven't refreshed it. Take a look at a modern one now, you honestly can't tell the difference. This is kind of the trouble with the car industry. Complacency sets in. People see that something's doing well, they just don't bother changing it. Eventually it just stagnates, sales dwindle, and then they pull the plug. At the time it was taking on Ferraris and Porsches, but for about half the price. It had a 480 horsepower twin turbocharged V6. It had a clever all-wheel drive system and launch control, and it could do 0 to 60 in about 2.9 seconds. And this was back in 2007. And that's still fast for today. And the best bit about it is they were cheap. Well, I say cheap, they were good value. So here was a car that could compete with the 911, but for Boxster money. Over the years, Nissan kept tweaking it. It got more power, better suspension, faster gearboxes, but it never got a full redesign. A bit like the Mazda II we've already discussed, it just got endless facelifts. Sadly then, all good things come to an end, and the global production of the GTR officially stopped in March 2025. As of time of recording, there's no official successor. The way things are going though, it'll probably be some sort of EV, I guess. It might even be a crossover, who knows. On the bright side though, if you've got one or you're thinking about buying one, it probably will be a future classic. Number 6 on this list then is a premium hatchback with no future. It's the Audi A1. Now the Audi A1 came and left a bit quietly. It was first launched in 2010 and what it was an upmarket super mini. What it was then was a small car for people who wanted a premium badge but didn't want to go to the full A3. And that's a bit of a niche, because if you think about the A1's rivals, it doesn't really have any. The Mercedes A-Class, the Audi A3, the BMW 1 Series are all in the class above. The Audi A1 really competes with things like, I guess, the Mini, the Citroën C1, the Vauxhall Adam, things like that. It just didn't have much of an audience. I guess its main market really was spoiled kids' first cars. And seriously, who wants to spend Audi money on a first car? You're much better with a little Toyota Aygo or something. In the A1's defence, they've always been pretty decent. They're a well-built little car. I've sold many of them over the years and they're pretty decent. My favourite probably is the 1.6 TDI. In fact, no, they did a 2-litre TDI, which not many people know about. and it's genuinely a bit of a hot hatch, although it's diesel. It is as hot as a diesel hatch can be. The second generation came out in 2018 and it was even better, but weirdly it had got bigger and you couldn't tell the difference between an A1 and an A3. The problem with the A1 was always the price. A nicely spec'd one would set you back about £25,000 and it's just too much. That's roughly double what a Toyota Aygo would cost you. Audi have confirmed that the A1 will be discontinued. Apparently there's just not enough profit in small little petrol engine cars like that, even cars that start at £24,600. And they've also said it just wouldn't be worth their time to convert it to an EV, so they decided to pull the plug on it altogether. So I guess that's the end of the road for the little Audi A1. From now on, if you want a well-built premium little hatchback, you're going to have to buy a Mini. Number 7 then, we're sticking with Audi again. This is the crossover that nobody asked for. It's the Audi Q2. I did a video with the Q2 recently. I remember thinking that it was quite a pointless car. If you want a small crossover SUV from Audi, what's wrong with the Q3? It was always a weird niche. So you want a Q3, but you want something that's just marginally smaller. So let's create a whole different car. It didn't make any sense. It's basically a VW T-Roc with a better badge. Now that's based on the Audi A3. I remember saying this in the video. Why not just buy an Audi A3? It's a far better car. It's more economical and it's cheaper. So why have the jacked up version? Doesn't make any sense. They tried to jazz it up a little bit with contrasting trims here and there, but really, it just never turned heads. It was never a bad car or anything. It was quite practical, it was decent enough to drive, it was reliable enough, but just very vanilla. The Q2 just kind of got lost in Audi's increasingly crowded SUV lineup. Audi confirmed that it was being axed as of 2025 with no direct replacement. Instead, the focus is on more expensive, more profitable, larger SUVs. So it seems Audi came to the same conclusion I did, although it took them 7 years and it took me 7 minutes. What do you think then? Will you miss the Audi Q2? Will I? Probably not. The next one, however, I will miss. Number 8 on the list is the Ford Focus. This is genuinely quite sad actually, because the humble Ford Focus has been a staple on British roads since 1998. It first launched back on an S-Reg, and I remember when it came out. It was built to replace the old Escort. I remember my Spanish teacher had one actually, in that pale green colour. I remember walking past it with some mates thinking, wow, it's a Z-Tech. The Ford Focus was actually my first car. It was a year 2000 1.8 Z-Tech in black. Panther black, actually. The fact that I remember that, such a loser, honestly. It's a car then that's really close to my heart. Both my first car and my second car were Ford Focuses, or Ford Foci. In my opinion, and I'll be honest, I am slightly biased, the Mark I Focus was the best of the bunch. The Mark I from 98 and then the facelift from 2002 onwards were the best. They were just way ahead of the time. I think they looked good. If you got a gear spec, it came with everything you could possibly need. And they handled really well, thanks to the clever multi-link rear suspension. There were loads of different engines available, from a 1.4 petrol all the way to a 2, or there was a diesel. You could have gone with manual or automatic. They did an estate version, a 3-door version. They're really versatile. The reason it's being axed, and excuse the pun here, but the UK's focus is now on SUVs, and EV SUVs. In fact, I'm not apologising for that pun, it was very good. The Focus is such a regular sight on the UK roads, I'll be sad to see it go. I'll also miss that little game that I play. Whenever I see a Mark III Focus, I always check to see whether there's a door rubber hanging out, and there always is. Sadly then, the everyman hatchback is no more. You're going to have to buy a Puma, or a Cougar, or whatever they're called. You know what, thinking about it, it's hard to believe we're going in the right direction. We're in a position now where we're trying to use less fuel, and by doing that we're getting rid of cars that are quite economical, and replacing them with bigger, heavier, fatter SUVs. Yeah, make that make sense. So anyway, there are 8 cars we're losing in 2025. Some of them were genuinely great cars that we're sad to see go, and others probably shouldn't have existed in the first place. I'm thinking of the Audi Q2, just in case you're wondering. Let me know in the comments below which ones you're sad to see go, or if I've missed any. So once again, thank you once again for watching. Make sure you give the video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Make sure you subscribe if you haven't done already. You can follow me on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter and TikTok. I'll leave the links below. And yeah, cheers guys. I'll see you next time.